Since it says we're going to have a remainder, we're going to end up with a number left over. We want to do a problem with just numbers, like 5 divided by 261. So 5 goes into 2 no times, but 5 can go into 26 5 times. And then we multiply 5 times 5 and we get 25. We got to subtract to see what's left over, and we can see that there is a 1 left over. So then we have to bring down the 1 from up above, and now we ask ourselves all over again, how many times can 5 go into 11? And 5 goes into 11 twice. So we do 2 times 5, and it gives us 10. And we subtract again to see what's left over. And then we're ending with this problem. How many times can 5 go into 1? Well, it can't. So that means that this is our remainder. And instead of just writing remainder 1, like you might remember, we're going to write this as 52 and 1/5. Because remember, we're dividing. If we end up with 1 left over, that means 1 divided by 5. Or we could write this as a decimal. If you were to type that in your calculator, that's exactly what you would get. So we're going to do the same type of thing, but this time with a polynomial. So let's go back to this one and divide it. So we have this x minus 2 that we need to see how many times it goes into 2x squared plus 3x minus 6. Now we could factor this, but I'm going to tell you there's a remainder, so stuff is not going to cross off like we like it to. But we can approach the problem the exact same way. How many times can x go into 2x squared? Well, it goes in 2x times, so then we have to multiply. 2x times x gives me 2x squared. And then 2x times negative 2 gives me negative 4x. And then remember, we want to see what's left over, so we need to subtract. If I subtract a negative here, I'm really adding. I always just go through and change all the signs, because that's what really happens when you subtract. Our 2x squareds go away, and we're left with 7x, and then we got to bring down negative 6. So now let's go through and ask the same question. How many times can x go into 7x? Goes in 7 times. And then we need to multiply. 7 times x gives me 7x. 7 times negative 2 gives me negative 14. And now to see what's left over, switch your signs. 7x is crossed off, and I'm left with 8. And then we're stuck with x can't go into 8. So 8 is our remainder. But instead of writing the answer as 2x plus 7 remainder 8, that means that we have 8 divided by x minus 2, and we can't simplify it. So the answer is really 2x plus 7 plus 8 over x minus 2. It can't divide, it can't simplify, so we're just going to leave the answer like this. Lots of steps and super messy, but I want you guys to try this next one on your own. So the answer you're going to end up with is 3m minus 5 plus our remainder of 13 divided by m plus 3 that we can't simplify. So if you guys didn't get that, take a look at my work. Try to see where you messed up, and if you can't figure that out, write yourself a little note and we'll go over it in class tomorrow. So the only other type that you're going to see is one that has a 0 coefficient. Basically, it's missing something when we write it from highest degree to lowest degree. So take a look at this thing right here, 3x minus 4x cubed minus 15. We don't have an x squared term there. So that means that we can basically rewrite that with 0 x squareds. You have to include everything when you're dividing, and you have to write it in descending order. So if we set this up, we want 2x plus 3 on the outside. And then if we write it in descending order, this guy has to come first. So we have negative 4x cubed. then we need an x squared term. We can't just forget about it. So we have 0 x squared. It's basically just holding a place. You know when you multiply numbers like this? You do 2 times 2, which is 4, and then 2 times 1, which is 2. And then when you go to do the 3, you have to remember to put a 0 there to hold a place, because you're really multiplying by 30, not just 3. Same thing with this division over here. We need to hold a place for the x squared term, even if there's not one in the problem. Then positive 3x should come next, and then minus 15. So the steps to this problem are exactly the same. How many times can 2x fit into negative 4x cubed? Well, we need a negative 2, and then we need 2 more x's. And remember to keep everything in rows. This is the x3 column, the x2 column, the x column, and then just the plain old numbers column. And now we're going to multiply. The first term, I end up with negative 4x cubed. And then if I multiply that by 3, I get negative 6x squared. And now to see what's left over, we subtract, or just change the signs. So our 4x cubes cross off, which is good. And now we have to add this 0. But we really just get 6x squared. And then we bring down the next term, bring down the 3x. And then we do this all over again. So how many times can 2x go into 6x squared? It goes in 3x times, and then we multiply. We end up with 6x squared for our first term, and then 3x times 3 gives us 9x's. And we got to see what's left over, so subtract both of these things. Our first terms cross off, which they always should. 3x minus 9x gives me negative 6x's, and then I have to bring down negative 15. So last time around, how many times can 2x fit into negative 6x? We see that it fits in negative 3 times, and then we're going to multiply. So the first thing we get is negative 6x, and then negative 3 times 3 gives me negative 9. To see what's left over, remember we have to subtract, or just change the signs. And again, this first term crosses off, which it always should. And then we're left with negative 6. Since 2x cannot go into negative 6, we know this is our remainder. So we want to write our answer with everything up top, so all this stuff right here, plus our remainder. So it's a negative 6 over 2x plus 3. So all of this is our answer. Try this next one on your own. If you take a look at this right here, it's missing the x term, just the plain old x term. So make sure you save a space for him and make the coefficient 0. So what you should have gotten is x squared minus 2x minus 4 plus your remainder of negative 7 divided by x minus 2. If you got that, awesome. If you didn't, see if you can find your mistake, and then we'll go over it tomorrow in class.